Hello everyone, I'm Meg Webb, the independent member for Nelson in this Tasmanian Parliament Upper House. State Parliament is sitting this week during Law Week, so I'm unfortunately unable to be there in person to participate in this wonderful event, but I'm really happy to be able to do this video and send it through as a contribution. I see tackling the scourge of modern slavery as a combined matter, including human rights, integrity issues and good governance issues, which are all key areas of interest to me in the work that I do as a state parliamentarian. It can be challenging, I think, for community members and also parliamentarians to get their heads around the fact that we need to be vigilant about modern slavery practices, and we can do that in many aspects of our lives. We know that modern slavery can be connected to what's happening within our borders, but also outside of our borders in ways that we might be supporting or benefiting from or perpetuating abhorrent practices, even inadvertently. So the good news is we're now able to better recognise and quantify the risks in that space following the passing of the Federal Modern Slavery Act in 2018 and the establishment under that Act of the Modern Slavery Statements Register. Those solid frameworks provide a lot of opportunity for good governance, and I've used them in state parliament in the scrutiny of human rights protection and also good governance practices, particularly in relation to our state-owned companies, our SOCs, and our government business enterprises, the GBEs that the Tasmanian government is part owners of. I've taken a look at the Modern Slavery Statements Register to see which of our GBEs and SOCs are meeting that income turnover threshold and having to provide the annual reports. And there's a number of them, including Aurora Energy, Hydro Tasmania Group and Tasports. And so they provide annual statements which highlight modern slavery risks in their supply chains, particularly where they, in some element of their business, operate in high-risk countries. So some examples of current human slavery risks that Tasmanian-owned companies have responsibility to navigate their way through ethically and to be able to report on would include things like the procurement of corporate clothing and protective clothing and equipment, the international sourcing of operational equipment and machinery and consumables, their labour hire sourcing, and even their IT hardware and software procurements. So those aren't risks that many of us in the broader community or even within Parliament are necessarily aware of, nor would we be aware of the reporting that has to be done against those risks. I've tried to bring a bit more transparency and awareness to that through the scrutiny activities I do in Parliament. So in the last couple of years, during scrutiny committee hearings for state-owned companies and GBEs, I've begun asking a series of questions around the modern slavery reporting that the entities do and asking them about the status of their modern slavery register statements. And I think that's probably been a bit bemusing for some, but the way I've justified that and the reason I focused on it is because the Tasmanian state government is a shareholder of those state-owned companies and GBEs. And so by extension, all Tasmanians are also shareholders. So we've got a shared collective responsibility there to ensure we're not part of the modern slavery problem, and then we're upholding our responsibilities on that front. And also in light of that, I'm really pleased to say that in September last year, in the Legislative Council, we debated and passed a motion that I put forward which called on the government to ensure that the GBEs and state-owned companies who were required to submit those modern slavery statements each year federally would also publish those same statements on their websites and in their annual reports, along with their modern slavery awareness policies or codes of conduct that were related to that. And I think that that is a part of an effort to ensure that every little step towards raising awareness, even small improvements in transparency and accountability in those spaces, helps drag those unacceptable practices and those abhorrent modern slavery risks above ground and into the light. And I think even conversations like the forum that you're having today are a really important example of how we can raise awareness too. So I congratulate you on the forum being held, and I hope it's a really fantastic conversation. I look forward to hearing the outcomes and certainly any initiatives arising that I can take forward and consider and implement within the role that I have in Tasmania State Parliament. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate, and good luck with the rest of the event.